FedEx, who has been with Joe Gibbs Racing for almost 20 years now, has been with Joe Gibbs Racing as long as Denny Hamlin's been there, and even then some, could be leaving at the end of the season, but they will at least be reducing their amount of races, the amount of sponsorship they have once again. They've already done it once. They've already started to significantly reduce the amount of money they pour into NASCAR, into Joe Gibbs Racing. Well, as I said earlier, it could be more. Now, as I said, FedEx, they have sponsored Joe Gibbs Racing for a while. They've sponsored that 11 car. The 11 car in the modern era has been known for FedEx, whether it's orange. Remember back in the day, I say that like it wasn't 8 years ago that they were doing this, but you'd see the orange car, and that was the FedEx Express Denny Hamlin car. You saw the red, it was FedEx Freight. The green, FedEx, I can't remember it right now. The blue one, FedEx Office. So we had all the different FedExes, and they were all different colors. Same base scheme, but we saw the different colors. And then we got the primary paint scheme, which was just the traditional FedEx colors with the purple and the orange, and he was either black or white. And FedEx, once again, we're talking about the paint schemes now, but the reason I'm bringing this up, we always saw the FedEx car on the 11. We never saw anything else. Every once in a while, we might see someone that's associated with FedEx, like a charity or something. We saw the Autism Speaks car. I think there was a hospital on the car once. So we would see some charitable thing that was associated with FedEx, and that was about the only time we wouldn't see a FedEx-based 11 car. Well, starting really last year or within the last couple of years, we haven't seen FedEx as much on the 11 car. We've started to see Interstate Batteries every once in a while do a one-off. We've seen sports clips on the car. We've seen, as of recently, the majority of the races have been Mavis tires and brakes, and sometimes the spin-offs of those, which is Express Oil, Brakes Plus. So we see majority of the races now, we see Mavis. And every once in a while, we kind of get lucky and we see FedEx, but it's almost a rarity at this point. Well, there's a new report that FedEx could be once again reducing the amount of races they do and could pull out entirely. Here's what that article says. FedEx is expected to continue reducing its sponsorship presence with Joe Gibbs Racing after this season and could conclude the long-time deal altogether, according to people familiar with the matter, a move that would end one of the more winning driver-sponsored combinations in NASCAR history. The Memphis-based global delivery and logistics giant has been a major sponsor of the team since 2005, and at its height was spending close to $25 million a year just in rights fees to JGR. The company or its divisions and sub-brands over the years sponsored every race on Denny Hamlin's number 11 Toyota during NASCAR's 38-event schedule up until 2021, when it began cutting back and JGR started finding other companies to fill the open positions. It then goes on to list some of the sponsors. The big one I missed was Yahoo. I forgot about the purple Yahoo car. It then goes on to say JGR has been in the market looking for new sponsors for the number 11 next year, sources say, and that's been done in anticipation of FedEx dropping more and possibly all of its remaining primary positions. It cannot be confirmed whether JGR was still holding last-ditch talks with FedEx, and the sides have yet to comment on the matter. FedEx did not respond for a request for comment, while JGR declined comment. Now, yes, we have seen more as time has gone on. Major sponsors have began to reduce their spending in NASCAR, but also other, like if you look at FedEx specifically, yes, they have been reducing the amount they spend in sponsorship on NASCAR, but also in other ways. They used to have the naming rights to the Washington Commanders football field, their football stadium, FedEx Field. Well, as of this year, or maybe even last year as well, they no longer have that naming rights. They gave that up. And then, of course, with the reduction of the NASCAR sponsorship as well. But as I said, we don't really see a lot of majority sponsors, honestly, in NASCAR. This article goes on to list Joe Gibbs Racing specifically, Dollar General, remember, sponsored Matt Kenseth in the 20 car for the majority of his tenure there. Mars, M&M's, Skittles, Snickers. Mars as a company sponsored 90%, I would say, of Kyle Busch's races, and they pulled out. And that's ultimately what led to Kyle Busch leaving Joe Gibbs Racing, because they didn't have the funding. That was a major blow financially to Joe Gibbs Racing. And not just Joe Gibbs Racing, but as I said, we just really don't see one sponsor carrying the load in a sense for teams. Obviously, Kyle Larson Hendrick cars. That's an easy one to think of. He runs that for, I think, 35 of the 38 race weekends. Valvoline gets the other 3. But for the most part, we see most teams, most drivers alternate. I mean, even over at Hendrick, Chase Elliott, I think Napa has the majority, but I don't even know if they have 25 races, because we see UniFirst, we used to see Hooters, Coca-Cola, among others. You look at other big teams, Penske, Menards gets a lot of Blaney's races, but we also see Advanced Auto Parts on that car. We see, I think, Wabash, that kind of navy blue car. We also see body armor on that car sometimes. So the model almost has changed in NASCAR with trying to attract major sponsors. Now, as of recently, there was a major sponsorship deal struck with Legacy Motor Club and Dollar Tree and Family Dollar, where no, we don't see one car running their paint scheme for 35 races a year, but they are on at least one car every single race weekend. So that's a big deal. That's a big, that's a good thing for NASCAR. But as I said, with these sponsorships, it's changed the way we see things. It used to be, oh, I'm a Jeff Gordon fan. I know it's going to be the DuPont 24. I know I'm looking for the flames, or I'm looking for the rainbow on the car. Oh, Dale Earnhardt, I'm looking for the Goodwrench, the black number 3. Oh, Jimmy Johnson, I'm looking for the Lowe's blue and gray 48. So it used to be you'd see a driver and their sponsor, and that was almost every single week and maybe a rare one-off. But now we don't see that as much. And also just with, companies spending money, a lot of companies have reduced spending the way, the economy works and whatnot. There's been a lot of inflation as of lately. So, there's been a lot of changes in the world, not just necessarily NASCAR specifically. But as I said, some of these major companies who sponsor race teams, they have reduced the amount of spending. They've reduced the amount of sponsorship. But it's not just a NASCAR thing. As I said, with FedEx specifically, they've reduced their spending outside of NASCAR. FedEx Field as an example. So, and then the next question would be, okay, Denny Hamlin, the 11 team, they lose a few more races, or they lose FedEx altogether. What do you do next? You have to fill that gap. And I think FedEx has 10 to 15 races this year. I want to estimate maybe even less than that. So do you go to Mavis Tires and Brakes and say, hey, we want you to up the amount, you sponsor us, pay us, and we give you more primaries? Or do they go external? Do they go look for another brand to take over FedEx? Do they go to a rival company? That would be ironic. Go to UPS or something. Or do they go for something completely different? Do you go for, I don't know, like Sonic? I don't know. It's a fast food company. Do you go for HBO, a movie company? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there at this point. But there's a lot of questions that come with this. And obviously, as I said, FedEx has been reducing their spending, but their contract is up at the end of this year. I believe it's either this year or next year. So this does need to be resolved soon. And once again, when one question gets answered, which that question is, well, what's FedEx going to do? It seems that they're going to reduce their landscape in NASCAR or remove their landscape altogether. And that opens up a bunch of other questions. Who sponsors the 11 for the rest of those races that FedEx was funding? Does JGR go internal and just try to get Mavis to up the amount of races, or Sports Clip to up the amount of races? Or do they go external? Do they go look for another company like Sonic? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I really like Sonic. I grew up on it. But if it is true, if FedEx truly is leaving, that would be the end of an iconic partnership. I know Denny Hamlin's polarizing, a lot of boos for him, a lot of people don't like him, but you cannot deny the iconic duo that they have been. They have been synonymous with one another. The 11 car winning, FedEx on that 11 car. They've got 3 Daytona 500s together, over 60 Cup Series wins together, or maybe 55. I can't remember what Hamlin's win count is at this point. But they've won all sorts of races. Coca-Cola 600s, Southern 500s. They've won Daytona 500s, as I've said. They've won so many races. They've had so much success together. It would truly be the end of an era in a sense, like when Lowe's left with Jimmy Johnson, like when Home Depot left JGR. As I said, we've seen a lot of big companies leave NASCAR. We've seen the sponsorship landscape almost shift in a sense, but we've also seen a lot of these big name sponsors change their spending, their marketing, not just in NASCAR, but outside of NASCAR as well. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Later today, we will do a championship case in the Xfinity Series for Shane Van Gisbergen. Hope you guys are looking forward to that. That will be later this afternoon, early evening, to try to appeal to those in Australia and New Zealand. Wouldn't want to post that video at 3 a.m. for them. Give them a little bit more time to wake up for that video. But thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Any other updates on the story, I will let you know.